You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast, episode 23.
Most of us weren't raised to talk about ourselves. We were taught to kind of hold back and be nice little girls with our lace socks and our patent leather shoes crossed at the ankles. A lot of us didn't have the role models. I find that very few of my clients' mothers actually had their own businesses, so there wasn't that role modeling. A lot of people, they weren't taught to shine.
You're listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast.
Life purpose, spirituality, higher calling, personal growth, meaningful life.
We ask the deep questions about living a balanced life of meaning, purpose, and joy.
Passion, know thyself, be mindful, spiritual practice, aha moments, life lessons, balance.
It is time to welcome your host, Angie Swartz.
Today it's my pleasure to bring Judith Balian to the show. Judith is the author of Your Mind on Marketing, Self-Help for People Who Hate Marketing but Have to Do It Anyway. She is an inspiring speaker, teacher, and workshop facilitator. Judith offers workshops, classes, and private coaching sessions designed to help people grow personally and develop creatively. She has been helping businesses with business and marketing strategy for over 25 years. Hello, Judith. How are you?
I'm fine, Angie, and it's so great to be on your show. I'm so excited about your new podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I couldn't be happier to be featuring you today. I know you do so many different things to help us all develop. And one of the things that's not in your bio that I'm really interested in is your work around the artist way. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. I found the Artist Way book in the mid-1990s. And when I went through the Expressive Arts program at Saybrook University from 2004 to 2005, I realized how beautifully the expressive arts modalities married with the Artist Way book. So I've been doing classes based on the book for the last 8 years now.
Wow. And tell us a little bit about what happens in your Artist Way classes.
Well, if any of you are familiar with the Artist Way book and the process that Julia Cameron recommends, there is the book is arranged in 12 chapters designed to be gone through one chapter per week. And you have a tradition. People do the book on their own, or ideally they do it in a group because it's very difficult to get through the book on your own. And people have a check-in. You're required to do 3 pages of journaling every day, and then one what you call an artist date, where you get out on your own and do something to get your juices flowing. And you do the check-in, where you go around in the group, each person says a little bit about their week, whatever they want to share with the group. So that's the traditional Artist Way method, and I marry that with expressive arts, which is process art, writing, sometimes movement, guided visualization, maybe even some psychodrama. So those activities, because they're process, not product oriented, they really help people get into their right brain.
And why is creativity so important for us? It seems like we've, as a culture, kind of gotten away from creativity as a daily practice.
I think we live in the West in our left brains most of the time. And the most creative people use both sides of their brain. I think creativity is important, but not always encouraged in almost anything that you do. So because we do operate from that logical left side so much, it's really important to get your right brain going. There are some activities that are right brain that you might not even think about. Like, do you ever wonder why you get an idea when you're driving down the street or you're in the shower? Those are actually right brain activities. So the more we can access our right brains and try to get that balance, the more creative we'll be.
Very nice. And speaking of that, like the right brain, left brain, like you kind of do, that's the definition of your life. You kind of do both of those things, right? You just wrote a new book. Can you tell us about your new book?
Oh, yes. Well, I got out of the corporate world, or shall I say I escaped from the corporate world in early 2006, really. and started my own business and discovered that was a whole lot different than marketing someone else's business. So I kind of had to relearn a lot of things that I had learned before. And basically I came up front and close with some of my own issues about putting myself out there, as I hear a lot of people say. And because I was working with a lot of solo entrepreneurs, I discovered that many of them, even people who, like I, had been in sales and marketing, had psychological blocks that held them back, old belief systems that they hadn't, maybe they were even unconscious old belief systems about money and the way they're supposed to be in the world. So after working with those folks and fighting my own internal battles for 7 years, I decided to write a book about that. There are a lot of marketing books out there that tell you what to do, but this gets down into the nitty-gritty of why it's hard for us, especially hard for women solo entrepreneurs.
And can you just give us a little hint? Why is it hard for us?
I think most of us weren't raised to talk about ourselves, for starters. We were taught to kind of hold back and be nice little girls with our lace socks and our patent leather shoes and our feet crossed at the ankles. That's one reason. A lot of us didn't have the role models. I find that very few of my clients' mothers actually had their own businesses, so there wasn't that role modeling. A lot of people they weren't taught to shine. Maybe they had a sibling, perhaps a brother that was the standout star in the family, but they weren't taught to let their light shine. Also, there are a lot of old beliefs that people harbor about money. How much money is it okay to make? Is it okay to make a lot of money? So all of those things can cause us to sabotage ourselves, sometimes without even really realizing it.
Right. And your book tells us all how to get over all those things.
Well, it's a book workbook. So it really challenges you to think hard and to determine what it is in your own life that may have caused you from hating marketing, as a lot of people do, really avoiding it, procrastinating.
Right. So who should read your book?
I think any woman entrepreneur, in fact, men are entrepreneurs as well. Anyone who's having trouble getting themselves to do marketing, who has a hesitancy, who says to themselves, I just want to do what I do. I don't want to do marketing. So anyone that's having those hesitations, I think it will give you new ways to look at it and think about it.
Great. That's such a rich topic. I think we could do a whole interview around your book topic, but I would love to spend a little more focused time today talking about you personally, and I'd love to know if you know what your life purpose is.
Yes, I do know what my life purpose is. I guess in one word I would say service. I believe my life purpose is to be in service to others as they develop their creativity and follow their own passion. I see myself as not so much a directive coach, but more of a midwife to people as they birth their dreams.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. And how long have you been doing this work?
I started my own business in 2007. And I would say I really got it going in 2008.
But you're very successful. You have lots of people, I hear, taking your Artist Way classes more than ever. Is that right?
That's right. Up to now, I have had at least 400 people that have taken my Artist Way classes and my standalone expressive arts classes, as well as my Your Mind on Marketing support groups. So it's the community is growing, and I really enjoy the people that I work with.
So back to your purpose a little bit. What were your aha moments in finding your purpose?
Well, I think the expressive arts program that I went through in 2004, 2005 at Saybrook University, where I studied with Dr. Natalie Rogers, who's the daughter of Carl Rogers. Some of you may know of him. He was probably the most famous American psychologist of the 20th century. And Natalie is a pioneer in the expressive arts movement. She started out as an artist and then began taking dance classes and realized that when you combine the expressive arts, such as image making, movement, writing, guided visualization, sometimes sounding, that the results that you got from that were exponential. So she began training people in her home early in the 1990s, I believe, and gradually the program was moved to the university. It's now at Sophia University. It's a 2-year program. And I went through that program. I almost didn't enroll, Angie, because of the word art. I never considered myself a visual artist at all, and that was kind of scary. But what I realized was that the program was for me both personally and professionally. We would go for a week at a time to a ranch in Sonoma, California. This was 6 times over a 2-year period. And it was all experiential. I got so much from it. There was 1 week. The title of the course that week was The Wisdom of the Body. We did these giant full body portraits that you had a piece of paper. Think of a 6-foot piece of paper folded in half lengthwise. We drew one side of our bodies and then the other side of our bodies. And I unearthed an amazing amount of stuff, I'll put that in quotes, that I never knew was there. And I was able to process those issues so quickly using the expressive arts modalities. And when I got through with that week, I felt like I could fly. It was just so incredible to me, the healing power of expressive arts. And I was just hooked. By the way, just as an aside, if any of you have seen the National Geographic for February, on the cover there are masks that have been made by returning soldiers to help process the PTSD and the TBI issues that they sustained in combat. And it's an amazing article. It shows many of the masks that they made through an art therapist. And I always am amazed at the healing power of the arts and how quickly it can happen, how quickly you can see results from it. So I'm just an evangelist for the expressive arts.
And so going back to what we were talking about, like your aha moments were being in this program, and you figured out at that point in time that you wanted to do something with this healing side of art. How has that changed your life and your work?
I would just say that the aha moment that I needed to leave the corporate world and get it out and do this came. I was working for a company, and I was working in LA a lot. So I had to drive up there and from San Diego and spend 3 nights up there. And the company was going through some issues. And I remember being stuck on the 405 Friday afternoon about 4 o'clock trying to get back to San Diego. It was bumper to bumper traffic, stop and go. And I got a call on my cell phone that 20% of the staff of the company had been laid off. And that included some of the people in the higher level positions because, of course, we were paid more. So I was laid off while I was stuck in traffic on the 405. And I think that was the moment at which I said, no, been there, done that, not doing this anymore. And I determined not to go back in the corporate world. So it's been challenging. I think that starting your own business is one of the biggest self-discovery journeys that anyone can ever take. But
isn't that true?
But I am so glad that I went for it and did not go back. I did have the chance to go back to another corporate job, but had I done that, I would not be where I am today. So I'm so glad that I made that decision.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there were other hints along the way that were pushing you in this direction?
Well, I'm a former teacher from way back before I got in the corporate world. I was in educational sales and marketing for many years. So I've always had a love for teaching and also for writing. I taught journaling to my students when I was a junior high teacher. So even that was one of the expressive arts, of course, because we were teaching process journaling. So I think all along the way there were milestones that led me in this direction. I entered the expressive arts program because I thought it would be great. I had been a journaler for over 25 years, and I just thought that was so powerful. And could I teach that to adults? And at that point, through a chance encounter, I actually stumbled into the expressive arts program, or else I would have never known about it. So, yeah, I think there were other signs along the way, certainly.
Thank you. Let's go back to what you said. You've been a journaler for 25 years, and I know that from talking with you before that you do various modalities of journaling. Why is that such an important practice in your life?
I think for me, I tell people journals are a place to dump, dream, and discover. Now, we're talking self-discovery journaling, not writing a diary that you want your grandchildren to find someday. But if you can let out your thoughts on paper, you can gain insights, you can gain focus, clarity. It's just an amazing process. It'll help you get over frustrations, push past fear. I can't say enough about it. Your journal can be your 24/7 therapist, and it's probably been well more than 25 years if I really think about it. I have boxes and boxes of journals. By the way, you don't have to keep your journals or ever even read them back. You can write the journal and shred it as soon as you get up from your journaling chair. It doesn't matter. It's all about the process. People say that journaling takes time. I really think journaling makes time because for me, it focuses me and I'm so much more productive the rest of the day after doing that journaling. Mm-hmm. When I was in the expressive arts program, I was introduced to art journaling. And art journaling works in the same way that written journaling does, where you do a brief sketch in the morning and then you write about whatever it is you come up with. It's all about letting the images come up from your subconscious so you can kind of think doodling. If you can take a piece of paper, a crayon, a colored pencil, whatever, and just doodle, you can gain insight through the art. And that puts you in touch very quickly with your right brain. Sometimes it's easy to stay in your left brain mode in a written journal, but if you do that little bit of art along with it, it can really make your two-dimensional journaling three-dimensional. So I do that as well. Not every day, but anymore, but often, especially when I'm stuck.
Right. Do you believe there's a spiritual component to your journaling?
Absolutely.
And what are your spiritual beliefs?
I would say that I am pretty eclectic spiritually. I was raised Catholic. I believe that there is a God, whether you call it Source, Great Spirit, Creator, the universe. I believe that we're all connected and that each person does have a purpose and things. I'm not sure I believe in coincidences. I think those little wonderful synchronicities that happen to us are supposed to happen. And I try to pay more attention to those. I think I'm not sure who said this, maybe Julia Cameron, she called them God winks, the synchronicities that happen to us. So
Beautiful. God winks. Going back to your journaling, is that your only daily practice? And I shouldn't say it that way. It's a very big practice for you, but do you supplement that with other things?
I do. Lately, I've been into meditation off and on, and lately I've gotten back to that a little bit. I find that if I journal before I meditate, meditation comes easier because I've dumped whatever it was that was on my mind in my journal first. I'm a walker. I'm so fortunate to live about 1.5 miles from the beach. So I've been I try to get down there at least 3 or 4 times a week for a daily solo walk. I have to plan that around the tide tables. But those are the big ones for me.
We are very lucky to live here in this beautiful place, which brings us to the physical body. Do you think that the physical body plays a role in living our purpose?
Absolutely. We hold emotions in our physical body, and emotions are energy. And I absolutely believe that our bodies have messages for us if we would learn to heed them. Sometimes I even journal with my body if I'm having an issue with one part of my body or another, and try to figure out what the message is that that's sending me. This doesn't mean you shouldn't go to the doctor if you have something really wrong with you, but we get messages from our bodies all the time. So definitely feel like it has a role.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask you about money?
Sure.
Do you make more or less money now that you're aligned with your purpose? And does it matter to you? Are your values the same as when you were in those high-pressured corporate times?
I probably make a fourth to a third of what I made in the corporate world. I was well paid in corporate. I was vice president of a couple of smaller software companies and director of marketing for a third. So I probably make a quarter to a third of what I made back then. I'm so much happier, and I have so much more flexibility. And also, I know that what I'm doing makes a difference in people's lives. I always tell people I'm not the magic. I'm the midwife that shows up. But I know that the safe space that I create for my students and the encouragement that I give to my marketing clients, I know that makes a difference. And what's that worth?
Priceless.
Yes.
Of course, priceless. Would you say that, so that's a fair amount of less money than what you were saying that you made before? Are you sitting around wishing for things? Do you feel like that you're in a place of lack, or is your life full?
Oh, I would have to say my life is full. Would I like more money? Certainly, but not for the reasons that I used to spend money in the corporate world. I don't have to go out and buy the red power suits anymore.
Thank goodness.
It doesn't matter that my car is an Acura that's old enough to vote. Those things just don't matter as much. And I find that when I do spend money, that it's generally for some life-enhancing reason for me rather than just for stuff, or mostly it's for something that I think will enhance my classes, which is great fun.
Right. Have you ever encountered any resistance from your friends or your family about doing the work that you do today?
I am so fortunate, and I know not everyone is. Julia Cameron talks about crazy makers and poisonous playmates, but my friends, and I have a very supportive husband who's very creative, author of several books himself, and musician, very creative man, and he is my biggest and best cheerleader. And my children also. And through the Artist's Way, I have met so many wonderful people who have become my friends. And everyone, even if they aren't yet following their own passion, everyone is supportive of the fact that I am. So that makes me a very lucky woman.
I've experienced Judith's Artist Way class many years ago and had quite the awakening myself as part of that class. And I would agree that you create a very, very safe space for folks to entertain and get to know their higher selves, their inner beings. It's a true gift.
Thank you.
One of the things, and if I might ask you, one of the things that I think you're very talented at is encouraging people to look at all sides of their personalities. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? It's just amazing work that I think you do in encouraging people to step into all the different sides of themselves.
Well, I've created a process that uses the expressive arts that I call secret selves. And I take people to a place where they can recognize and identify and accept all different sides of themselves. I think we all have these different subpersonalities. Some of them we like, some of them we don't want to admit are there. Others that are the bane of our existence. For example, everyone that I've ever met has an inner critic, some strength at least. So we do a process that identifies those different sides. And it's very interesting when I do that in a group of 12 people or so, or 15. It's interesting how people see themselves in what other people come up with, which just goes to show you that we're more alike on the inside than not alike. I think it's just so important. When you hear people talk about wholeness, to me, that's what it means. Wholeness to me means recognizing all these disparate sides of ourselves, the voices in our heads that pull against each other. Or people talk about integration. And again, that's what that means to me. Pulling all of those different parts of ourselves into your authentic self, who you really are, because we're all of those different parts and pieces.
Right. Are you willing to give us a couple examples of some of your own secret selves?
Oh, gosh. Well, the process came out of my own work, my own personal journaling, actually. I became aware of this when I was in the corporate world, of a side of me that I didn't particularly like that I called Corporate Connie, and she was this hard-charging, kind of witchy person in that expensive red power suit. But then I had another part of me that was kind of the opposite, that I dubbed Fearful Frida. And she was operating out of fear all the time. So I began to dialogue between those two different parts of myself in my journal. And so that's kind of how the process was born. I also had a pretty strong inner critic, Carmen the critic. I do some, as you know, Angie, some kind of fun stuff with her in my Artist Way classes. But over the years, Carmen has transformed and is now more my ally and a giver of information than somebody that sits on my shoulder and criticizes me all the time. So
she's more of an advisor these days, huh?
Yeah. But we all have those parts of us. I have another one that I particularly like called Randa the Rebel, and she's always ready to do a little bit of a challenging thing or take a risk here or there. So.
And is she the one that's responsible for your patent?
Oh, that would be India the Inventor.
India the Inventor. I don't think I've met her formally.
Yeah. Several years ago, I developed a product that actually is an awareness training tool that we are now in the process of reaching out to companies for licensing opportunities. But that actually came as a result of the Expressive Arts program and getting in touch with that right side of my brain. I think I never could have developed that without going through that program and exploring, giving voice to that creative side of myself.
Mm-hmm. If someone were to ask me about you, I would describe you as a very highly creative person. So I can't really imagine this other form of you without that as one of your key elements to your personality. So I think I'm glad I didn't meet that. Well, I forget her name, but that corporate girl.
You probably wouldn't have liked her.
Well, at the time I was in corporate too, so we would have been, two peas in a pod, probably behaving very similarly. But now we're free of that.
Free at last.
So I would love to ask you a lightning round of yes or no short answer questions, if I may.
Okay.
Do you think purpose and passion are the same things?
No.
Do you think everybody has a life purpose?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how important is following your joy and igniting your life purpose? Oh,
I'd say that's a 10.
Did you ever quit your job to follow your purpose, and do you think somebody needs to?
As I explained before, my last corporate job, it was a layoff, and I did not go back. So in a way, I did quit because I chose not to go back. I don't think people necessarily need to quit their jobs. I would certainly encourage you to think outside the box. My second to the last corporate job, I was actually able to swing a 3-day-a-week working arrangement, and that's when I was able to go through the Expressive Arts program. So maybe there are other things that would be possible without you having to quit outright.
Right. Tell us what brings you great joy.
I love facilitating groups and working one-on-one with people. And what brings me the greatest joy and feeds me the most is when I see them light up as a result of an insight or just finding that hope, finding that spark. That lights me up.
Very nice. And I know you have a big love affair with some dogs that are good friends of yours, too.
My dogs?
Uh-huh.
We have 2 adopted West Highland Terriers that they keep us busy and entertained, that's for sure.
So would you put them in the joy calendar or the joy category?
Absolutely. They're definitely in the joy category, as are my 2 children. I have a son who's a major in the Army and a daughter who is a real estate broker in Tucson, and they're both very supportive and just 2 of my best friends. I'm very fortunate.
Very nice. If you unexpectedly amassed a good-sized fortune, what would you do differently?
I don't think I'd do much differently, except I would probably give a lot of it away, but I would also probably do more travel, and there are training programs that I would like to take. I'd love to do more with movement, take one of the longer training programs in expressive movement.
Well, we'll look forward to that day for you.
Yeah.
Tell me, what should listeners learn from your life?
I think that you're never too old to follow your dreams and that everyone is creative. I don't think I began to be creative until 2004. So we all have that in us. So those are the 2 things I would like to think that people can learn from me.
Right. Great. Do you have any personal growth items that you'd like to recommend? Any books or tools that have been helpful in your life?
Well, I think I was the queen of self-help for many, many years before I got the creativity going. But I would certainly recommend the book, The Artist's Way, to anyone. For people that have an inner critic that's on steroids, the inner critic really holds us back. I would say Embracing Your Critic by Hal and Sidra Stone. And then lately I've really become a fan of Brene Brown's book, The Gift of Imperfection. And she's
a wonderful work.
She has such wonderful things to say about shame that I think a lot of us, maybe all of us, need to hear. So those are 3 resources that I would recommend.
Wonderful recommendations. Thank you for that. And how about working with you? Can I talk you into giving an offer to my listeners today?
Sure. I work with people one-on-one, either by phone or in person, if that works out. And it's normally for an hour, and generally it's an hour and 20 minutes, an hour and 30 minutes. I charge $125. I would be willing to offer that to our listeners for $60, either in person or over the phone. So I'd love to meet some of your listeners, Angie.
Oh, terrific! And do they need a special code for that, or just tell you they heard it on the Life Purpose Advisor podcast?
I think they should reference Life Purpose Advisor podcast.
Okay, perfect. So what's the best way for people to connect with you if they would like to learn more about you or to take you up on your very generous offer?
My main website is excoveries.com. Let me spell that. It's a combination of the words explore and discoveries. It's EXCOVERIES.com. And they can read all about everything that I do there and get in touch with me there.
And how about your book? Can we find your book on Amazon?
Absolutely.
And just tell us the name of that one more time.
Your Mind on Marketing by Judith Balian.
Terrific. Well, it's been a great pleasure. I could speak with you for hours about creativity and the change in both of our lives. But I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for sharing your story with us.
Well, thank you, Angie. It's been an absolute delight. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
And the same to you, my friend. You have been listening to the Life Purpose Advisor podcast with Judith Balian today. If you'd like what you've heard, please leave us a review or a rating wherever you're listening. And if you'd like more information about finding your life purpose, please visit www.lifepurposeadvisor.com. I look forward to seeing you next time.